iPhone 4s.
The iPhone 4S, retroactively restylized the iPhone 4s, is a touchscreen-based smartphone developed, manufactured, and released by Apple Incorporated. It is the fifth generation of the iPhone, succeeding the iPhone 4 and preceding the iPhone 5. Announced on October 4, 2011 at Apple's Cupertino campus, its media coverage was accompanied by the death of former Apple CEO Steve Jobs on the following day. Available for pre-order on October 7 and coming to mainstream availability in retail stores on October 14 in the United States, Australia, Canada, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, and Japan, sales peaked over its predecessor with over 1 million sales in the first 24 hours of pre-order availability and over 4 million sales in the first 4 days of retail availability. Further worldwide rollout, including 22 additional countries on October 28, came over the next several months. Retaining the external design of the iPhone 4, the 4S hosted revised hardware specifications, most notably an upgrade to the Apple A5 chipset, and an 8-megapixel camera with 1080p video recording. It debuted with iOS 5, the fifth major version of Apple's mobile operating system, that introduced features including iCloud, iMessage, Notification Center, Reminders, and Twitter integration. It also debuted a 4S exclusive intelligent personal assistant named Siri that was later included in future generations of mobile Apple products. Reception to the iPhone 4S was generally favorable. Reviewers noted Siri, the new camera, and processing speeds as significant advantages over the prior model. It was succeeded by the iPhone 5 as Apple's flagship phone on September 12, 2012. However, the 4S continues in production, albeit being sold at a lower price point.
History.
Speculation about Apple's next-generation phone, including various specifications and a predicted name, iPhone 5, were widespread in the time preceding its debut. After the iPhone 4S was announced, there was some disappointment about the new phone's name. As early as May 2011, some leaks had a fairly accurate description of the product, including the name iPhone 4S, the A5 chip, HSDPA, new camera, and Sprint carrying. There were no external differences between the iPhone 4 CDMA model and the iPhone 4S, with the exception of a SIM card slot on the iPhone 4S. All changes were internal. Slight external differences between the iPhone 4 GSM model and the iPhone 4S exist, as said differences existed between the CDMA and GSM models of the iPhone 4. The iPhone 4S was unveiled at Apple's Let's Talk iPhone event on October 4, 2011, on the Apple campus in Cupertino, California. The keynote was the first which Tim Cook gave since the Verizon keynote earlier in the year. It was also Cook's first launch without Apple co-founder Steve Jobs, whose health was deteriorating, and who died the day after the announcement of the iPhone 4S. Tim Carmody of Wired praised Cook for focusing on company achievements, calling him a global business thinker, and a taskmaster. At the Let's Talk iPhone event held by Apple on October 4, 2011, Mike Capps demonstrated Epic Games' Infinity Blade 2, the sequel to Infinity Blade, on an iPhone 4S. Capps boasted that the game uses Epic Games' Unreal Engine 3 and features the same graphic techniques used in the Xbox 360 game Gears of War 3. On September 10, 2013, the iPhone 4S name was restylized as iPhone 4s, using a lowercase s to reflect the names of the newly announced iPhone 5S and iPhone 5C. This was unusual for Apple, as an uppercase S had been used since the introduction of the iPhone 3GS in 2009.
Features. Software.
The iPhone 4S uses iOS, Apple's mobile operating system. The user interface of iOS is based on the concept of direct manipulation, using multi-touch gestures. Interface control elements consist of sliders, switches, and buttons. The response to user input is immediate and provides a fluid interface. Interaction with the OS includes gestures such as swipe, tap, pinch, and reverse pinch, all of which have specific definitions within the context of the iOS operating system and its multi-touch interface. Internal accelerometers are used by some applications to respond to shaking the device. One common result is the undo command, or rotating it in 3 dimensions. One common result is switching from portrait to landscape mode. The iPhone 4S was first shipped with iOS 5.0, which was released on October 12, 2011, 2 days before the release of the device. The 4S uses iOS 5.1.1, which was released on May 7, 2012. As of September 2013, the device can be upgraded to iOS 7. It can act as a hotspot, sharing its internet connection over Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or USB, and also accesses the App Store, a digital application distribution platform for iOS developed and maintained by Apple. The service allows users to browse and download applications from the iTunes Store that were developed with Xcode in the iOS SDK and were published through Apple. The 4S can play music, movies, television shows, ebooks, audiobooks, and podcasts, and can sort its media library by songs, artists, albums, videos, playlists, genres, composers, podcasts, audiobooks, and compilations. Options are always presented alphabetically, except in playlists, which retain their order from iTunes. The iPhone uses a large font that allows users plenty of room to touch their selection. Users can rotate their device horizontally to landscape mode to access cover flow. Like on iTunes, this feature showed the different album covers in a scroll-through photo library. Scrolling is achieved by swiping a finger across the screen. Alternatively, headset controls can be used to pause, play, skip, and repeat tracks. On the 4S, the volume can be changed with the included Apple earphones, and the voice control feature can be used to identify a track, play songs in a playlist or by a specific artist, or create a Genius playlist. The iPhone 4S introduced a new automated voice control system called Siri, that allows the user to give the iPhone commands, which it can execute and respond to. For example, iPhone commands such as, "What is the weather going to be like?" will generate a response such as "The weather is to be cloudy and rainy and drop to 54 degrees today." These commands can vary greatly and control almost every application of the phone. The commands given do not have to be specific and can be used with natural language. Siri can be accessed by holding down the home button for an extra amount of time, compared to using the regular function. An impact of Siri, as shown by Apple Video Messages, is that it is much easier for people to use device functions while driving, exercising, or when they have their hands full. It also means people with trouble reading, seeing, or typing can access the phone more easily. On the iPhone 4S, texting can be aided by the voice assistant, which allows speech to text. In addition to regular texting, messaging on the iPhone 4S is supported by iMessage, a specialized instant messaging program and service that allows unlimited texting to other Apple iOS 5 products. This supports the inclusion of media and text messages, integration with the device's voice-controlled software assistant, and read receipts for sent messages. Input to the computer comes from a keyboard displayed on the multi-touch screen or by voice-to-text by speaking into the microphone. Entered text is supported by predictive and suggestion software as well as a spell checker, that includes many regional dialects like Swiss spoken French. At announcement, plans were in place for the iPhone 4S to support many languages. Different features have different language requirements, such as keyboards compared to the word predictor and spell checker, which needs a large dictionary of words. Language support is related to the iOS 5 operating system that the device launched with, although not always. The Siri digital assistant supported French, English, and German at launch. Since it uses a software-based keyboard supported by the multi-touch display, it can support many different keyboard layouts without having to change physically. The iPhone 4S can display different languages and scripts at the same time. On September 19, 2012, iOS 6 was released to the iPhone 4S among other compatible iOS devices and over-the-air, OTA, upgrade package. According to Apple, the update contains 200 new features and tweaks, which includes a new Maps app, dubbed Apple Maps, Facebook integration and Passbook, an application that allows users to store their coupons, boarding passes and tickets digitally. On September 18, 2013, Apple released the iOS 7 and iPhone 4S among other compatible iOS devices that also received the update without any lagging issues compared to the iPhone 4.
Hardware.
The iPhone 4S uses the Apple A5 system on a chip, SoC, that incorporates an Imagination Technologies PowerVR GX 543 graphics processing unit, GPU. This GPU features pixel, vertex, and geometry shader hardware supporting OpenGL ES 2.0. The SGX 543 is an improved version of the GPU used in the iPhone 4S's predecessor, the iPhone 4. The iPhone 4S uses a dual-core model that is integrated with the Apple A5 SoC in the same way as the iPad 2. Apple claims that the iPhone 4S can process graphics up to 7 times faster than the iPhone 4. This was corroborated by Epic Games president Mike Capps. The iPhone 4S has 512 MB of DDR2 RAM. Maximum available storage size increased to 64 GB while the 32 GB and 16 GB model options were retained. The screen is the same as the prior generation iPhones. 3.5 inches, 89 mm, 640x960 resolution, Apple's Retina design. There was an improvement in interactive multimedia applications compared to its predecessor. The iPhone 4S has an improved cellular, GSM, antenna design over the iPhone 4. The new antenna is divided up into 2 pieces within the stainless steel band that wraps around the sides of the phone. Therefore, if the iPhone 4S is gripped in such a way as to attenuate one piece of the cellular antenna, the radio will switch to the other piece that isn't being gripped. The iPhone 4S can support a maximum theoretical download speed of up to 14.4 Mbps with HSDPA+. As a result of an upgraded radio chip inside the phone, in addition to being a world phone, so both CDMA and GSM customers can roam internationally on GSM networks. It also supports Bluetooth 4.0. The camera on the iPhone 4S, also known as an iSight camera, can take 8 megapixel photos, 3264 by 2448 pixels, and record 1080p videos at up to 30 frames per second with upgraded quality, 30% better clarity, 26% better white balance, color accuracy, due to an additional lens, IR filter, a wider f/2.4 aperture, and image signal processor, built-in A5. The built-in gyroscope allows for some image stabilization for the camera while recording video, although it still has room for improvement, since state-of-the-art image stabilization algorithms do not need to use a gyroscope, but use image processing. Other features of the camera are macro, for close-up pictures, and faster capture, including being able to take its first picture in 1.1 seconds and the next half a second later. The iPhone 4S features a 89mm, 3.5 in, 960 by 640 pixel multi-touch Retina display. It has 2 volume buttons and a ring silent switch on the left side. On the top left there is a 3.5mm headphone jack and a microphone that is used for both noise cancellation during calls and when in speakerphone FaceTime, video calling, mode. The lock power button is situated on the top right edge of the device. The right side of the device has a micro SIM card slot. The bottom of the device features a speaker output on the right and a microphone input on the left with Apple's proprietary 30-pin dock connector in the center. The iPhone 4S supports video out via AirPlay and various Apple AV cables. Supported video formats include H.264, 1080p 30 frames per second maximum, MPEG-4 video, and Motion JPEG, MJPEG. In addition to user inputs, the device also has several sensors that give the phone information about its orientation and external conditions. These include a 3-axis gyroscope, an accelerometer, a proximity sensor, and an ambient light sensor. The iPhone 4S is stated to have 200 hours standby time, 8 hours talk time on 3G, 14 hours talk time on 2G, 6 hours 3G browsing, and 9 hours Wi-Fi browsing. Additionally, it can sustain up to 10 hours of video playback or 40 hours of audio playback.
Design.
The iPhone 4S has a stainless steel, dual cellular antenna design, identical to iPhone 4 CDMA. Apple redesigned the antenna in the iPhone 4 CDMA after some original iPhone 4 users reported cellular signal attenuation problems as a result of holding the phone in certain positions. The improved cellular radio in the phone can switch between two antennas, depending on which is receiving the best signal. These two antennas are incorporated into the distinctive stainless steel band that wraps around the sides of the iPhone 4S. The bands on the iPhone 4S are divided into two antennas, cellular and global positioning system GPS, with Bluetooth and Wi-Fi reliant on an internal antenna. The iPhone 4 and 4S were designed by Jonathan Ive. The fourth-generation iPhones differ from earlier Apple designs. The bulges of the back panel as well as the band between the front and back are gone and have been replaced with flattened surfaces. The redesign reflects the utilitarianism and uniformity of existing Apple products, such as the iPad and the iMac. The overall dimensions of the iPhone 4S are lower than that of the 3GS. It is 115 mm, 4.5 in, high, 59 mm, 2.3 in, wide, and 9.4 mm, 0.37 in, deep, compared to the iPhone 3GS, which is 116 mm, 4.6 in, high, 62 mm, 2.4 in, wide, and 12 mm, 0.47 in, deep, making the iPhone 4 and 4S 21.5% thinner than the 3GS. The internal components are situated between two panels of aluminosilicate glass, described by Apple as being chemically strengthened to be 20 times stiffer and 30 times harder than plastic, theoretically allowing it to be more scratch-resistant and durable than the prior models.
Reception. Critical reception.
Reception to the iPhone 4S was generally favorable. Reviewers noted Siri, the new camera, and processing speeds as significant advantages over the prior model. Tim Stevens of Engadget said that the iPhone 4S does everything better than the iPhone 4, but it simply doesn't do anything substantially different. Joshua Topolsky of The Verge stated that if this were to be a car, it would be a Mercedes, and that Siri is probably one of the most novel applications Apple has ever produced. Most reviewers thought that Siri was the most important feature on the iPhone 4S. Brian Chen of Wired said that the fifth-generation iPhone's superb camera and speedy dual-core processor are classy additions. But Siri is the reason people should buy this phone. Retrievo surveyed more than 1,300 U.S. consumers and reported that 71% of all smartphone owners were not disappointed by the new iPhone 4S, but 47% or almost a half of current iPhone 4 owners were. 12% were hoping for a bigger display, 21% wanted a refreshed design, and 29% desired 4G. Echoing technology pundits, Reuters suggested that the lack of a more radical departure from the iPhone 4 could open new market opportunities for rivals. Analyst C.K. Liu of Gartner believed that Apple no longer had the leading edge and that the 4S would only sell due to brand loyalty, as fans had been expecting an iPhone 5 with a thinner profile, edge-to-edge screen, and stronger features. These same fans had also wanted a cheaper, stripped-down iPhone 4. Gaming on the iPhone 4S has been likened to the PlayStation Vita, that features the same SGX GPU only in a quad-core configuration, and the Nintendo 3DS handheld game consoles. Further, the iPhone 4S ability to process 80 million polygons per second has been compared to the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 home video game consoles that can process 275 million and 500 million polygons per second respectively. Computer and Video Games' CVG Deputy editor Andy Robinson told TechRadar that the 4S is certainly laying down some serious credibility for the iPhone as a core gaming device. Not only is it now pushing out games that simply eclipse the 3DS visually, but features like cloud saving and TV streaming support are really exciting for gamers. The senior gaming analyst at John Peddy Research, Ted Pollack, believes the biggest improvement to gaming on the iPhone 4S is the voice control features, noting that one of the features that Nintendo's players loved was the ability to talk to it. There's no reason why a game like that couldn't be done on the iPhone 4S, and much more sophisticated given the voice control shown. In 2012, the iPhone 4S won T3's Work Gadget of the Year award, beating RIM's BlackBerry Bold 9900, rival Samsung's Galaxy Note amongst others.
Reported defects.
Since the introduction of the iPhone 4S, there have been several issues reported by users on Internet forums that have been noted by media organizations such as CNN, Boy Genius Report, The Guardian and PC World. No audio on outgoing calls, yellow-tinted screens, primarily affecting white-cased units, battery problems. Apple has acknowledged the problem and have released iOS 5.1.1 to diagnose and address the issue. However, the update has failed to completely resolve the underperforming battery issue. As of February 2012, Apple is still investigating the battery drain issue, static noise during calls. Later found not to be the phone but CDMA. It was only reported on Verizon and Sprint phones with no reports from AT&T phones, not understanding the accent of users from various countries while speaking to Siri. Bluetooth connectivity and range sometimes poor, deficient, and/or defective. The sound quality on the other end is muffled and/or undiscernible, with reports indicating the iPhone is likely the problem as opposed to the Bluetooth headsets, Wi-Fi overheating and grayed out after updating to iOS 7.
Commercial reception.
Unlike prior iPhone models, the number of sales of the iPhone 4 had not yet climaxed before the introduction of the 4S. Previous iPhone models were released during or after declining sales figures. In addition, iPhone 4 users had high marks for being satisfied with their phone. Upon the announcement of the iPhone 4S, shares of Samsung Electronics, HTC and Nokia gained on Wednesday after the 4S was announced, while Apple stock fell. However, later in the day Apple shares rebounded, ending with a 1% gain. With the launch of the pre-order, AT&T said that the demand for the iPhone 4S was extraordinary. Over 200,000 pre-orders were placed within 12 hours of release through AT&T. The German phone company Deutsche Telekom said they were satisfied with consumer interest. In addition, AT&T, Verizon, and Sprint sold out pre-order stock by October 8, 2011, and by October 9 there was a 1 to 2 week estimate on new pre-orders to be filled. On October 20, 2011, AT&T surpassed 1 million iPhone 4S activations. On October 10, Apple announced that over 1 million pre-orders for the iPhone 4S had been received within the first 24 hours of it being on sale, beating the 600,000 device record set by the iPhone 4. The 16-month wait between the iPhone 4 and 4S may have contributed to overwhelming sales as well. On October 17, 2011, Apple had announced that 4 million units of the iPhone 4S were sold in the first 3 days of release, and 25 million iOS users had upgraded to the then-latest version of iOS, iOS 5, which was released upon the introduction of the phone. Phil Schiller, Apple's Senior Vice President of Worldwide Product Marketing, stated that the iPhone 4S is off to a great start with more than 4 million sold in its first weekend, the most ever for a phone and more than double the iPhone 4 launch during its first 3 days. The used phone market saw unprecedented rates of trade-ins in the weeks leading up to the 4S announcement, and after it there was a drop in prices offered. Previous generation iPhones are recirculated through the markets through various methods, and third-party buyers may purchase older generation iPhones. Apple also buys back previous generation iPhones under a special program. On April 24, 2012, AT&T announced that 7.6 million iPhone units were activated in Q4 2011, and 4.3 million in Q1 2012. In total, AT&T sold 5.5 million smartphones in the first quarter of 2012, out of which 78% were iPhones.
Timeline of models.